How's it going, guys? And welcome back to BL3's Forgotten, the series where I take a look at unused and not often talked about pieces of gear to determine whether or not they deserve to be remembered within the modern meta of the game or should be left behind and forgotten. And today we are taking a look at the Seventh Sense. The Seventh Sense is rewarded after the completion of a set of 3 side quests, the Cold Case questline starting with Buried Questions, which can be picked up from Burton Briggs in Curse Haven on Xylurgos. Which, I mean, hey, this is just a really fun questline as is, so it's definitely worth your time. You get to play in a dead girl's tomb, shoot ghosts, and then get really sad at the end. What's not to love? But after completion of the third and final quest, Restless Memories, you will get yourself the Seventh Sense. During the second quest, you also get the purple variant of the Seventh Sense, so the only thing that this does is let you see the voices in your head. It's also only usable during that quest, but I thought I'd mention it here anyways. The Seventh Sense is a legendary Jakob's pistol with completely locked parts and unable to roll with any anointments. It only comes in cryo and on crit will not ricochet. Hitting an enemy with a projectile will summon another projectile which will float up into the air aimlessly, and upon reloading the weapon, any projectiles in the air will come back down and home in on the initial target, dealing cryo splash damage to them. The Seventh Sense has received a single change, just being a 100% weapon damage increase. Now starting off here, before we talk about how functional the Seventh Sense actually is, I want to talk more about it just from a design perspective because I think this kind of falls into the same category as the Bloom for me, being a very cool and thematic, almost artifact-esque weapon. It's not just a gun, it's unique beyond just the effect that it provides. It's a functional piece of storytelling. It served a purpose in a very cool questline, and now you get to have it for your collection. And for the most part, I think this is a very cool execution of it. I really like that it plays a very important role not only just in the story, but literally as a tool to complete the second quest. And I think that just kind of adds to the moment when you do actually get it for yourself at the end. And of course, it just looks really nice. It's really unique, it's got a cool weapon skin, and Alien Barrel Jakob's pistols just look so wrong but so cool. Unfortunately, I think it kind of falls off in the thematic aspect when it comes to the actual gimmick of this gun. Which isn't to say the gun as a whole is bad or anything, we'll get to that in a second, but the actual effect of it isn't that unique to it. I mean, hell, within the same DLC you have the Unseen Threat, and in the base game you have the King and Queen's Tolls. All those sort of have a similar effect where it's extra projectiles flying up into the air before coming back down to your targets. And yes, they do work differently in the actual details of how this all functions, but it's similar enough that I would kind of group them all together. And not only do I think the Seventh Sense just has the weakest execution of this gimmick, it just doesn't feel as unique to it as the Bloom special effect did. Again, just talking about the thematic of the weapon, I wish its special effect was actually unique to it. But now actually as a functional weapon, again, like I said, I think this is the weakest execution of the gimmick behind it. This is a 1-for-1 on bullets, whereas the Threat and King's and Queen's Toll spawn multiple projectiles per shot, which means this doesn't have the same sort of synergy with bonus projectiles as those two do. It's a single shot, high damage pistol, so bonus projectiles are still good, but it can't compare in that aspect to other similar options. On top of that though, the King's and Queen's Toll have ammo return on crit, and on top of that, those other options can roll with anointments. Now normally I don't like comparing guns to others this heavily, and I try to mostly talk about guns on their own merits, but to me the Seventh Sense just seems like a downgrade of the same idea as those other options in almost every single way. But with that out of the way though, the Seventh Sense is actually incredibly fucking good. This is the weakest execution of the effect. That doesn't mean that this is a weak weapon. It is literally too good to actually make use of the effect a lot of the time. Is this a positive or negative? I really have no fucking clue. My only real complaint about this gun is while using it, I wish the projectiles spawned on one enemy would home in on another nearby enemy on reload instead of just going to waste. Hey, editing fella here, I think I was actually wrong about this. In the clip that I just watched play over that audio, I think it actually disproves this. It is really hard to tell because I do ADS, but I think the projectile summoned on that manticore that I killed homed back in on the next enemy after I shot it. So potentially what this means is as long as you shoot an enemy before the projectiles despawn, all of them spawned even on another enemy will now target the new enemy. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that too. Back to this other fucking bozo. But eventually, my way around this was I found myself aiming for body shots rather than crits because of just how satisfying it was to reload and watch enemies' health bars just melt away. Yeah, that's right. After all that bitching about it, guess what? I still like the effect. I like it enough to handicap myself just to make use of it. While it is objectively a worse iteration of projectiles float up and come back down, it's easily the most satisfying to use since you control when they come back down through reloading. But not only satisfying, this thing is strong. Strong. Usually with guns that are unanointable, I'll give them a go with anointments to see the difference it makes. But the Seventh sense? I mean, no shit, it's gonna make the thing better. It's stupidly good even without an anointment. And this extends even to builds that are built to optimize specific anointments. My most footage is running my boom shot build, a Jacob's Mo's build which is mostly built to use URAD. It didn't even feel remotely weaker. I mean, hey, this isn't the cleanest kill, but watch it just take out Grave Ward real quick. The 7th Sense, of course, also does just hit an enemy multiple times per shot, obviously, which means you can get a lot of Megavore, a lot of short fuse, but also indiscriminate ricochets on both the main hit and the secondary hits. And the main projectile, if it ricochets, will summon secondary projectiles on whatever it ricocheted to. It is hard to tell if the secondary projectile is summoned by indiscriminate actually home back down, though. There is one negative synergy here, which is when an enemy is confused through Domination, Allure, or the Mesmer, those secondary projectiles do not spawn. But overall, though, the 7th Sense is a pretty cool gun that has a decently strong thematic behind it. I have a few nitpicks here and there, and it does have some problems. However, overall, it's fucking insanely strong. This is one of the few guns in the game that literally doesn't even need an anointment to function. And I think that alone should tell you just about all you need to know about it. But not only is it just a super powerful Jacob's pistol, it's a super fun and very satisfying Jacob's pistol, even if you do need to handicap yourself to make use of that special effect. But the 7th Sense is an incredibly good weapon, and I highly recommend you check it out. But that's about do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all that. Right after this video goes up, I will be live right here on YouTube, but also over on Twitch, where there will be a link to down in the description below. And just under that is a link to my Discord server where you can come and join and hang out. But with that all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.